Welcome, everyone, to CEO School. Today's guest is Christelle Fernandez. She is a business system strategist and virtual COO for womenpreneurs. As the systems queen, she helps womenpreneurs with online service based businesses get rid of chaos and overwhelm, leveling up their systems through automation and streamlining. She is the owner of iVirtual Business Services, where she helps boss womenpreneurs grow and scale their businesses through management systems and strategy. She is a part time virtual COO for your business, helping with operational strategy, systems reviews and implementation, virtual team management, and more. She is also the founder of Boss Babes That Slay, a membership site for women, business women of color. Welcome, Christelle.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate you having me back on. It's been a little while since you and I got to chat, but
I'm
appreciate it.
so thrilled that we have this opportunity today. Again, you are always so full of knowledge. And I do want to say that Christelle's also a personal friend. I absolutely adore her. And I don't fit the criteria for boss babes that slay, but I've stalked them and it's a great group.
No, but you do slay and you do know your stuff, and I will say the same. If you don't have Kelly on your squad, you need to have Kelly on your squad. So that's just your crew of people that you trust and that you want to network with and mastermind and bounce ideas off of. You need to have Kelly on your squad if you don't already.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so first things first, you have an upcoming webinar where you're going to go in great depth on all these topics, uh, how to operate your business like a boss. And so tell me a little bit about secrets to being a
A
bosspreneur.
bosspreneur, yes, it's hard
Yes.
to. So I add preneur to everything, right? Bosspreneur and womenpreneur. So yes, I have this webinar coming up on Tuesday, November 16th. It's at 11 a.m. Pacific or 2 p.m. Eastern, depending where you are in the country, right? And it's basically it's a free webinar, and I target and it works for anybody because even women that work with products, but my concentration is online service-based womenpreneurs, right? And it's a 45-minute to 60-minute session where I go over some strategies to help you set up a solid foundation that's going to help you grow, but especially it's going to help you avoid the chaos and overwhelm that we feel as solopreneurs most of the time, not a and I'll be going over a few different systems. I completely geek out on systems, right? So this is my specialty. And the systems that I'll be going over are things that you should already have in place or should start getting into place. But especially, I emphasize automation.
I have to say, you and I both geek out about systems
Yes, we
because
do.
it just makes everything else run so smoothly. It just smooths the road. And we
Yes.
already have a lot of potholes in, just trying to wear as many hats as we do, doing the different things that we do. So anything that's going to help smooth that out is so much better. And efficiency basically translates to dollars in your pocket ultimately once you get the right systems in
Absolutely.
place. So I love it. So
Yes.
can you talk a little bit more about why womenpreneurs need this in their life?
Well, first of all, who needs chaos and overwhelm in their life, right? We have already enough going on in our lives, whether it's kids, because I still have a little who's not even 9 yet, marriage, health, parents, whatever you have going on in your life. Um, you don't need to add any more stress when you have this business going on, right? So, and one of my mottos that I've really been trying to quote unquote preach more lately is that automation for womenpreneurs is self-care. We cannot do all the things, and we cannot be superwoman as much as we try, because I get yelled at a lot by my parents and my husband for trying to do that. But we need this balance, right? And these systems that are out there, we just need to take advantage of them. They're out there for the big corporations and the medium-sized corporations, and there's a lot of systems and tools out there that are tweaked to be specific for solopreneurs and micro businesses, which is my specialty. I love small businesses. I've always loved entrepreneurship, and that's what I love to help grow and escalate. But by setting up these systems that I'll be going over, from automation in CRMs to automation in calendar management and time management, um, you need to ask yourself, what would you do with an extra 5 hours per week, or an extra 10 or 15 hours per week or month, even, like, depending on how you figure out your time management. You, at the end of the day, most womenpreneurs feel frustrated, unfulfilled, and they feel like they got nothing accomplished, even though they were busy all day long. We've all been there. And my goal is to help you feel and get you to be more accomplished throughout the end of the day. I want you to work on the stuff that you love the most, right? You have this vision, and it wasn't about dealing with all this extra admin burden that we have going on, right? And if you're working on the stuff that you love most, it'll be much easier to grow your business. And as you start growing, you'll start noticing that you need these systems anyway. So why not start off the right way and give yourself that space to grow with the right foundation?
Well said. Absolutely. I mean, you and I are kindred spirits, as we've talked about before,
Yes.
but absolutely, the right systems in place frees you up from the repetitive work that doesn't, it's not the best use of your time. And even if
No.
you've got these systems in place and then you have a VA or you have a marketing person or you have a bookkeeper or you have other people supporting you, what they're doing is typically available easily. You can look at the results, you can see the
Hmm.
progress, you can map it, you can track it, all the things that you as a CEO should be concerned with, but it takes minutes of your time,
Yes.
moments
And
sometimes.
and that's what these
And
systems do, is to help track those metrics that you're talking about, and knowing exactly, so that way you can take a look at a glance and know, okay, this needs tweaking, I should be moving my money onto this project or this marketing strategy because that's working a lot better. So it's super important. So yeah, metrics, like you mentioned, huge.
absolutely, but it all falls into place. So especially when you're small, you can't afford inefficiency because it will derail your day. Yesterday I
Hmm.
had a beautiful day planned. I had tons of stuff that I needed to do, but there were a couple of things that absolutely derailed my day. Now, did they need to? If I had a VA that was available, which I don't right now, by the
We'll talk
way,
about that.
yes, we'll have that conversation. Um, but if I had a VA that I could turn to and say, take care of this for me, my day would go smoothly. But instead, I spent my time on hold, and we all know what that's about. And at the end of
Hmm.
the day, you may be exhausted, but you don't feel very fulfilled. In fact,
Hmm.
usually, if you're me, you feel frustrated and and you need to take a little mental health break for the good of everybody in the household.
Yes. um, yeah, you need to give them a warning as to, I need some time. Mommy needs some time right now. Yes, I do.
So let's actually talk about self-care. You kind of mentioned it before, um, but okay, I believe in self-care. I'm not a good
Hmm.
practitioner. I need to level up in many ways, and I think most of us do. But a lot of times I hear things about, oh, self-care Sunday or things like that. And
Hmm.
what's your take on self-care?
So one of the things that, like I mentioned, is that I'm kind of preaching, or my motto is automation is self-care for womenpreneurs, especially because we have so much going on in our lives. And but the self-care part is not just the automation, but even the delegation part. And I kind of talk about that, not kind of, but I actually do talk about that in I add the self care part in different areas when I'm talking to my clients and my audience. In my calendar masterclass, it's called "Make Your Calendar Work for You." Um, I make sure that one of the categories of business, you have these categories of business, but then I have this personal category of self care to make sure that you're scheduling that in. But I found myself at one point. Okay, well let me call it back. So the automation and the delegation is, I feel, a self-care because it gives you peace of mind because things are streamlined and they're running on their own, and because they're automated and streamlined, they're efficient, which, like Kelly mentioned earlier, efficiency equals dollars, right? And so you want more of that. And so if you have that peace of mind knowing that these little things are getting taken care of with these automated workflows, then that's a stress relief for you because you know it's already happening in the background and you don't even have to worry about it, right? Um, but this message that I'm trying to get out for self care in general is I found myself at one point kind of getting anxiety about having to schedule all of this different self care, right? You go on IG, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, and there's these self care Sundays, or you need to do yoga, you need to meditate, you need to take baths, you need to put cucumbers on like these bags that I have them under my eyes right now. You need to go for a walk, walk the dogs, you need to be working out 4 or 5 times a week. You need to make sure that you're buying the right groceries and eating right. So there's these tons of items, and sometimes like posts will list like 20 different things of self-care that you should be doing. And I got anxiety over trying to schedule all of that. Like it was way too much. So just like everybody has a different definition of success, everybody has a completely different definition of self-care. So on the business side, the automation and delegation is definitely self-care because that's peace of mind is taken care of. On the personal side, for me, sometimes, that I'm structuring my business in a way because of my health issues that things are automated and that I'm doing things, I'm concentrating on things that I love. But because of my health, sometimes self care for me is just vegging in front of the TV. For a few hours, nobody's bothering me, the kids at school, husband's at work, and that's me, like decompressing. And people, a lot of people think of, watching TV, it's bad. But for me, it's like I'm not thinking of anything besides that, right? So I'm just kind of letting things go. If a walk is great for you, then that's what you should be scheduling. If going out, happy hour with your girls, dinner with your girls, whatever it is, that's for self care because you're decompressing. It doesn't have to be this specific list. And so that's kind of one of the messages that I've been trying to get out about self care in general. But yes, the automation and delegation on the business side is absolutely self care.
And I'm just going to throw in another comment. You talked about your health. Most of us, we get either we have health issues, we have kids with health issues, or we have parents with health
Mm-hmm.
issues. And what you said was really important, I think. The more automation you have, if you have to step away from your business for
Yes.
a period of time, if the automation's in place, you know these things are still getting done. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a virtual assistant that helps you with a variety of these different tasks, it frees up your time to focus only on the core that absolutely no one else can do. And you can actually keep your business moving forward where
Absolutely.
and that can be so critical because again, this applies to men as well as women, but I do feel like women carry the burden for taking care of their families, including themselves. And sometimes, no matter what else is going on, you have to prioritize healthcare as one item. But and so having the automation helps. But I will say that we can also look at that in a different way. If you want to go on vacation, if you've got the right systems and things in place, you can take a couple of weeks off and know that everything's just not going to grind to a halt during that time.
Um, Actually, you hit both points perfect. So, and I'll give two examples. So, and Kelly, you've known my journey for this year, but at the beginning of the year, for those of you that don't know, I got COVID. and I was laid out for 4.5 months with pneumonia. Should have been in ICU in the hospital. Thank goodness I didn't go because, grateful that I'm still here because my pneumonia was absolutely horrible. But because I had my systems in place and I had my team, I had this absolutely awesome marketing person, website person, and a social media VA, that my social media was just scheduled and posted, the content written, and I didn't have to worry about it. They just, I paid them and they did it. And it was a huge stress relief of not having to even worry about that, and just knowing that I was going, even though I wasn't able to provide services, that online presence that you need to keep going, that you don't want to take a break from, kept going. And on the vacation side, the beginning of December, I'm going to Cancun and Tulum for about 8 days. And again, my stuff is set up. This webinar, the course that's coming up, is all being set up, and my social media again is already taking care of landing pages. And I get to go, and maybe I'll have a message here and there on one of the systems I use called Slack to communicate with my team. But besides that, I don't have to worry about anything. It's set up, it's automated, my team know what to do. They're working on stuff that they love, so it's easy to be able to do that and not have to worry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just gives you, like you said, the business can keep going. You have peace of mind. The stress, the
Hmm.
chaos are all taken care of. And you have people that love the type of work that they're doing the things that are extremely valuable to you, but they're not your scope of genius, right? And
Yes.
not the part that you need to focus on. So I love that.
Hmm.
So all of this is going to be covered in a lot more depth in your webinar.
Yes.
Um, and I hope everybody attends, because I already can tell you this is a topic that comes up over and over again, even within uh, my mastermind groups and things like that. My clients are constantly feeling stressed out, simply because they have so many things on their plates. And they're all spinning in different directions.
Yes.
So I really hope they do that. I heard that you are giving away a freebie. Can you tell us a little about
I
that?
am. So it's a super easy to follow checklist to get your SOP started. So one of the systems that I go over are SOPs, and if you don't know what they are, they're standard operating procedures. And if you're in business, you should have them. Even if you're me, myself, and I type of business, you need to get your SOPs going. And I go over the whys and the hows to do them. And this checklist just gets you started super easy. Um, and once you attend the webinar, then you'll get that on the back end as a little reward for showing up to the webinar. Yes, but that's worked out for a lot of clients.
I love that. So it's a free webinar full of valuable information. And then at the end, you're giving away a freebie as well, so that
Hmm.
we can all work on our standard operating procedures and make sure they're in place. Wow. Thank you.
They don't
And
sound fun to put together. I totally get, right. So, um, being the systems person, like I get that systems aren't for everybody. Like it's hard to wrap if you're creative, like to be able to understand like systems and why you need them and trying to put them together. I get that it doesn't sound fun. But if you get these SOPs together, if you get these systems together, um, it'll make so much more sense at the end. If you come to the webinar, I'll explain why. And they don't have to be as difficult as what you're thinking, right? And it doesn't have to be as expensive as what you're thinking to put these things into place.
yeah, that's a great point, is that you don't, especially when you're starting out and dollars are tight. Christelle's a great person, great resource to talk to, because she can point you towards systems that will grow with you, and they maybe start out as a free or freemium, where you until you grow to a certain level, you're at a free plan, and then it increases, or it's a minimal cost, any of these
Hmm.
different things. But she can help you with that. So that's a really good point. And I loved what you said about creatives, because again, when you're what I've noticed with my super creative clients is that it sounds like jail when you talk about systems.
It does.
And it's not, it's actually just helping you create a foundation so that none of this stuff has to be something that you worry about ever again. So, it puts everything in place so that you are free to be your creative self. So, yeah, but I do understand. I'm with you, Christelle. I get it that not everybody geeks out about this stuff, but
Hmm.
once it's in place, you do become a fan. I will say that.
Yes, you will.
Oh, speaking of which, we talked about VAs multiple times. Um, Hiring your first VA or your 10th VA, let's talk about that. Do you have a tip about how to find the right person?
I have a tip for hire VAs, and actually use it for my contractors in general. VA, virtual assistant, if you don't know, can have different skill sets, right? So you can have a general admin task virtual assistant who's helping you with calendar, inbox, um, customer requests, or you can have like a social media VA who's scheduling your info for you, and everything in between, right? So when I was back doing my 9 to 5 jobs, I hated being micromanaged. Absolutely hated it. And so now with my own team, I hate micromanaging, right? So I want to hire and make sure that they have the skill set and that they're able to just get it done when I assign a task. Obviously we communicate, or I'll do like a video for them, but yeah, I don't want to have to
Yeah.
manage them. It's just too much for me. So when I'm hiring contractors, um, and even when you get to the point of growing your business, you're at like 3, 4, 500 K per year, and you start wanting to think about hiring employees versus contractors, and that's a totally different subject. Use this as well and find out. Obviously, you're going to ask what kind of skill set they have, what their experience is, like what their portfolio looks like, but ask them what they love to work on. Just like you're trying to structure your business to work on what you love, being a VA, that's also a business for them. And so you want to find out what they love to work on, because if you're working on what you love, then you'll find that there'll be morale overall for your team of contractors, but also the efficiency on their end and the less micromanaging that you'll have to do, because they're getting these projects that they really love and geek out on their end, right? And yes, there's going to be one-off projects that everybody hates doing, where we all get those sometimes, that you just things that you have to take care of. But asking them what they love to work on is huge, and kind of finding out like what do they do. So like I started my business because I had my baby, right? And she's older now, like I mentioned, she's almost 9, but I still have a kid at home. And there's a lot of VAs that have kids, or just one of my VAs is on maternity leave. She just had a newborn, and so I know they have kids in the background, or something have to be postponed. So kind of find out what their lifestyle and their work style, what their hours at work, when you can reach out to them. Um, I let them know, like I might send you a message at 10 p.m., but I don't expect you to like answer at 10 p.m. It's just I'm getting it out of my brain and onto Slack, just so that you know what I was thinking at that time and I won't forget. So kind of find out, their work style and their lifestyle in the background. What do they have going on? What do they love? What do they hate working on? To make sure that you try to avoid um, giving them that type of project unless you absolutely have to. Um, and so yeah, it's just that's I find it's a huge hiring tip when you're bringing on your contractors and starting your team.
Brilliant advice as always. It actually reminded me of, okay, so again, I geek out by reading management books. Um, but, and I would attribute this, but honestly, I don't remember which book it was in. I have an idea, but the discussion was around uh, annual reviews and how demoralizing those are, because people, yes, you do want to improve in the areas to a minimal level of competence in the areas that you don't excel in. You
Hmm.
should have a minimal level of competence in those areas. But what you want to do is have a team that does the things that they love, that they focus on those things that they excel at instead of spending their time trying to improve in areas that is not their zone of genius. Now, again, doesn't mean that they can just slack off and not do those things or whatever, but if you've got another team member that's a better fit for a project, give it to that person. Give that to that person, and that will make a big impact. Um, so I love that advice. It absolutely dovetails with mine. The other thing that I always tell people is I had a philosophy when my kids were small, which is if I have to keep calling and checking on the babysitter to make sure something didn't blow up, I have the wrong babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the
Right.
same with your business. If you have the right people in place, you set it, you give the assignments. Obviously, you know, you do get a temperature check and make sure things are going well and make sure that your communication was on point, that somebody's not going a different direction because you didn't explain yourself well or what was in your head didn't translate. But beyond that, you're hiring a team so that you don't have to micromanage, so that you don't have to spend your time overseeing what they do. So, absolutely, pick the right team members and asking them what it is they love to do, what and what they hate to do sounds like absolutely perfect advice. And I will say, I might not have asked that before now. You
Yes.
know, it seems obvious, sure, but I might not
Most
have
people
asked.
don't. Most people don't. You just kind of like want to know, okay, well, what's your skill set and what's your experience? Can you do this? Can you do, are you going to be able to handle my XYZ projects? But again, it's, you think of it as you're a business owner, you want to work on what you love on, even though they're a VA, and some people kind of diminish the idea that they're a VA and they're quote unquote just an admin. No. Admins are your life support. Even if you're in corporate world, executive admins are life support even though they're not treated that way. So VA, I started my business just because I wanted to get out of the corporate world as a VA. That was my business, and my success was being able to be home with my newborn, and I wanted to work on the types of projects. So asking them what they love to work on, it will be huge, and you want to be able to have that connection with your VA so that they feel comfortable um, coming to you and letting you know, like, I really can't work on this because of XYZ, and maybe cross training another team member that naturally does love working on that and just passing it over, like you mentioned. But yeah, it's something I feel is really important to ask your VAs for sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to second something else you said, which is people most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, you can afford flexibility with your team as far as work hours. It doesn't
Hmm.
really matter if they're a night owl and they're working on your graphic design or if they're working on your website stuff. That's fine. So you don't
Yes.
need to require them to be on the same schedule that you are. You can have virtual assistants of a variety of kinds, including administrative work, that mostly don't need to be on your same schedule, although you'll want to have some time that overlaps so that you can get certain things done.
Absolutely.
But it's not a requirement. And the same, you mentioned, having children and having that extra responsibility. If they can't work for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening because they're taking their kid to school or bringing them home, um, that's okay. It should be okay. Um, so really think about that when you're hiring somebody. That is it really a requirement for the job you want them to do to be, tied to your hip in terms of hours? It probably is not, and you probably can afford a huge amount of flexibility there.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to remember they're contractors, not employees, so you can't
Right.
expect them to be like on at all times. I've worked with contractors literally all around the world. So I have some contractors here in the U.S. I have one in Mexico City he's been with me for like 5, 6 years now. That's 2 hours ahead. Then Argentina was 3 hours ahead, and then Bangladesh. But right now I have three in the Philippines, and only one works East Coast time. The other two work their day, which is our night here in Pacific Coast. Um, and so there's you have to set up your time frames as to when you're going to be able to communicate and how you're going to communicate. That alone is a system as to being able to communicate with your team. But finding out what their schedule is like, and when can you talk to them, and when can you expect them to reply, because everybody, again, it's their business, and so they have their set hours just like you have your set hours, and so you need to make sure that you're flexible as to making it work both ways.
Thank you. Brilliant advice, and I love it. Um, Anything that we haven't talked about that you want to go over? I do want you to put all the information about your webinar in the chat. Encourage everyone watching to please do yourself a favor and sign up, because it's going to be so valuable for you.
No, I absolutely will. Thank you so much for having me. I just kind of wanted to touch a little bit on some what I do in general, because some people don't understand the virtual COO, or the even just OBM, right? So
Right.
Kelly, as you know, is informed CEO, and every CEO needs to have a COO. If you think of a corporate org chart, right? Somebody needs to handle your operations and streamlining all of your operations, whether it's client services to team management. And that's the stuff that I concentrate on, which is why Kelly and I get along really well, because she helps the CEO in that strategy and that mindset, and then I come along as COO. And the business system strategist thing is where I come in, and I can look at the systems that you have already in place, or go through what your operations are and suggest what systems you should start putting in place if you don't feel like you don't have anything, help you streamline your business. The COO, if you've heard the acronym, also OBM, or online business manager, it's the same. It's the same thing. I just figured COO, most people understand that more than what OBM. A lot of people didn't understand what OBM was, but just like I said, I geek out on the streamlining. Kelly and I, like we mentioned, we work hand in hand on a lot of things. But if you have any questions for either of us, we can help you. She also geeks out on systems. And again, if you don't have her on your squad, she should be on your squad. And thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much. And we definitely are going to have you back again.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.